All right, get ready. Because today we're going to really dig into something that can honestly, like, totally change the way you think about dating. Feminine energy.
Oh, interesting.
I know, this sounds kind of out there, but just wait, this deep dive gets, like, surprisingly practical.
Okay.
We're taking inspiration from this really awesome podcast episode called Inner Balance Red Print.
Okay.
And it says some pretty bold things, like understanding this energy can, like, completely change how you attract love.
Yeah, it is interesting how they talk about this, because it doesn't seem like it's about fitting into this like old-fashioned idea of what feminine means, right?
Right.
It's more about like tapping into a very specific energy, one that I think is actually in all of us,
Oh, interesting.
regardless of gender.
So it's less about, like, gender stereotypes and more about energy.
Yeah, exactly. The episode The Source, argues that like in our society we're kind of taught to like always focus on masculine energy,
Mm.
being driven, being assertive, taking charge. But feminine energy is different.
Okay.
It's about flow, intuition, receptivity.
Okay.
And these can be incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to love.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but also a little confused.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for being strong and independent, but I don't really get where feminine energy fits into that.
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound kind of passive?
Yeah, that's a really common misunderstanding, I think. And actually, the source talks about this directly. Feminine energy is not about being weak or, submissive. It's really about using a different kind of power,
Okay.
the power of attraction instead of pursuit.
So instead of chasing love, you're kind of like letting it come to you.
Yeah. Think of it like this. Masculine energy is kind of like the wind, right?
Uh-huh.
It's driving forward with force.
Okay.
But feminine energy is, it's more like a magnet,
Oh.
drawing things in without even trying.
Okay.
They're both powerful, but they work in totally different ways.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually, like, cultivate this magnetic energy?
Yeah.
Especially, like, when it feels like everything's telling us to, go, go, go all the time.
Right.
Does the podcast episode give, like, any actual advice?
It does. It actually lays out 5 specific, calls them secrets for for unlocking your feminine energy, especially when it comes to attracting love.
5 secrets. Okay, I'm all ears. What's the first one?
All right. Secret number 1 is all about letting go of control.
Ooh, that is a tough one. I'm such a planner,
Uh-huh.
and I definitely catch myself, like, overthinking every little thing, especially in dating.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because that's exactly the kind of behavior that the source is talking about, like constantly checking your phone,
Oh, yes.
trying to like craft the perfect text message,
Really?
obsessing over every detail of the date. That's all masculine energy in overdrive.
So instead of trying to, like, micromanage everything, we should just kind of chill out and see what happens.
It's not about being like totally passive,
Okay.
but it is about kind of surrendering to the flow of things. The source says that when we try to force or control every part of dating, we're actually we're blocking our feminine energy
Oh.
from doing what it's supposed to do, which is attract.
Yeah. It's almost like we're putting up a wall instead of letting love in.
Exactly. And it's exhausting, trying to make every little thing perfect.
Yeah.
The source suggests that when we like let go of the reins a little bit, we actually make space for magic to happen.
Okay, I'm willing to try that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, what about when you really like someone
Yeah.
and you don't want to leave things up to chance?
Yeah.
Doesn't that go against, letting go of control?
Totally. It's completely natural to feel that way. And that's actually where the second secret comes in, cultivating self-love and worthiness.
Okay.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something the source asked. They said, like, do I treat myself the way I want to be treated in a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
It really made me think, like, we talk so much about, setting standards for how others treat us. Right.
But do we hold ourselves to those same standards?
Yeah. That is such a powerful question.
Yeah.
And the source says that self-love is like the foundation of feminine energy. It's about recognizing that you have value, no matter what anyone else says or does.
You mean it's not about waiting for someone to come along and, like, make us feel worthy?
Right.
We already are.
Exactly. And the source goes even further, challenging us to look at how we're treating ourselves right now. Like, are we waiting for a partner to make us feel beautiful or confident?
Right.
Or are we choosing to embody those things, no matter what our relationship status is?
Whoa. That's a big mindset shift.
It is.
So the first 2 secrets are letting go of control and cultivating self-love. What's next?
Okay. The third secret is all about being open and receptive.
Okay, that sounds pretty simple, but I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
You're right. The source uses some very specific examples here.
Hmm.
So imagine a guy gives you a compliment.
Yeah. Or he offers to do something nice for you. Are you graceful and receptive, or do you kind of brush it off? Or like downplay it?
Well, that is interesting because I know I've been guilty of deflecting compliments before. Like, I get all awkward and I don't know how to respond.
I think that's really common, especially for women, you know?
Yeah.
But the source really highlights how this blocks like the flow of abundance. Think of it this way. If someone is giving you a gift, whether it's a nice word or a gesture or even an opportunity, and you refuse to take it, you're kind of like cutting off that flow of positive energy.
So receptivity is less about being polite and more about like opening ourselves up to good things.
Exactly. And it's not just about like romantic relationship, it's about everything.
Oh, is it okay?
The more receptive we are, the more like abundance we invite in.
I'm starting to see how these secrets all tie together.
Yeah.
It's like we're building a foundation of self-love and then opening ourselves up to receive, all the good stuff.
Right.
Okay, what's secret number 4?
Okay, so this one might be a little more challenging for some people.
Right.
Embodying softness and vulnerability.
Ooh, that's a loaded word. Vulnerability. It's definitely something I've like struggled with,
Yeah.
especially in dating. I always felt like I had to be, strong and independent, like I couldn't let my guard down.
Yeah, that's a very common fear,
Yeah.
and the source acknowledges that. But the key is this. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength.
Hold on, I need to wrap my head around that one.
Okay?
How can vulnerability be a strength?
Think about it this way. It takes a lot of courage to show your true self, to like let someone see your flaws, your insecurities. And when you do that, you make space for a real connection.
So it's not about pretending to be perfect or like having it all together all the time.
Exactly. The source gives a really good example here. So imagine you're feeling neglected in a relationship. Instead of blaming your partner or just like shutting down completely, you could say something like, hey, I feel really close to you when we spend quality time together. I would love more of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot more vulnerable than saying, you never spend time with me.
Right. It's about expressing your needs and your desires, but without like attacking or blaming. It's about opening up and letting your partner in.
Okay, I see the power in that. But what about the other side of that? What if someone like takes advantage of your vulnerability?
That's a really valid concern, and it is really important to set boundaries, to protect yourself. But here's the thing. If someone constantly disrespects your vulnerability, they're probably not the right person for you. It's about finding someone who appreciates your authenticity and meets you with compassion.
I like that. Finding someone who appreciates your authenticity. It's not about hiding parts of yourself to like please someone else.
Exactly. It's about showing up as your full self, flaws and all, and letting the right people be drawn to that.
Okay, we've covered 4 secrets.
Yes.
Letting go of control, cultivating self-love, being open and receptive,
Yeah.
and embracing vulnerability.
Right.
What's the final piece?
Okay. This one might surprise you. It's leaning into your sensuality.
Sensuality. Okay, I definitely want to hear more about this one. Like,
Mhm.
it's not really a word you hear a lot in, self-help stuff.
Right.
What does it actually mean, like, in this context?
That's what I really like about this source. It goes deeper than the usual advice and gets into some really interesting stuff. And
Yeah.
sensuality is a great example. It's not just about, sex appeal or physical attraction.
Okay.
It's more about like cultivating a connection to your senses, to your body, to the pleasure that's already in like everyday life.
So we're talking about, like, enjoying a good meal,
Yeah.
taking a hot bath, dancing to your favorite song.
Exactly. It's about those simple things, those experiences that make us feel, alive and connected to ourselves.
Right.
And the source says that when we tap into our sensuality, we actually radiate a more magnetic energy,
Okay.
and that draws people in.
So instead of trying to, like, force attraction or play games, we're more focused on just feeling good in our own skin.
Think of it like this. When you're really enjoying yourself, when you're present in your body and feeling like vibrant, that energy, it kind of rubs off on other people. It makes you more attractive in a way that you just can't fake.
I can see how that would be a lot more powerful than, trying to fit into some idea of what we think is attractive.
Right.
It's about coming from a place of, like, realness, not insecurity.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's something that the source talks about a lot in the episode. It's not about being someone you're not. It's about being yourself. And that includes your sensual side.
Okay, I'm on board with these 5 secrets.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I'm also kind of overwhelmed. It feels like a lot to work on all at once.
Yeah.
How do we actually, like, start doing this in our lives?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to dating.
I get that. It's not about, changing who you are overnight. It's about making small changes, intentional changes that align with these ideas.
So what would that look like? Like, let's say you're going on a first date.
Okay.
How would you use these secrets?
Okay, great question. Let's break it down. First, remember letting go of control. So instead of, overthinking what you're going to say or trying to control the conversation, just focus on being present and enjoying the moment.
So less rehearsing witty comebacks and more like actually listening.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to be
Yeah.
vulnerable, share something personal, let your guard down. That's where you really connect with someone.
But what if I get nervous and like start rambling?
Mm.
Or what if my date thinks I'm too much?
It's okay to be nervous. First dates can be awkward. That's
Yeah.
totally normal. The important thing is to not let fear take over. You're worthy of love and connection just as you are. And if your date doesn't see that, well, then they're probably not the right person anyway.
That's true. It's about attracting people who appreciate us for who we are, not who we think we should be. What about after the date? Like, should I wait for him to text first?
This is where letting go of control and cultivating self-worth are really important. Instead of worrying about when to reach out or how, just trust your gut.
Okay.
If you feel like sending a message, do it, but
Nice.
don't do it because you're, desperate or need validation.
So it's about being in touch with our own feelings and trusting ourselves, not following some like dating rule book.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, feminine energy is about attracting, not chasing. So instead of like sending a million texts or trying to make plans right away, give him space to be the one to pursue you.
Okay, I see how this all fits together. It's about creating a dynamic where we're not always the ones pushing or striving,
Right.
but we're letting ourselves be, pursued and cherished.
You got it. And that doesn't mean being passive or playing hard to get. It's about knowing your worth, radiating confidence and joy, and letting that attract the right people.
The source actually talked about a couple of real life scenarios that I think would be good to like unpack here. One was the over texting trap. How does that fit in with what we've been talking about?
It's a great example of what happens when we're stuck in our masculine energy.
Uh-huh.
When we're always the ones initiating contact, planning dates, basically taking on the traditional role of the pursuer, it can throw things off balance.
So it's not about never texting first. It's more about being aware of the bigger picture.
Exactly. If you're always the one doing all the work, it might be a sign that you're not really embracing your feminine energy.
Okay. The other scenario the source mentioned was the high-value woman approach.
You're right.
What does that even mean, like in terms of energy, not just as a buzzword?
It's about more than just, looking good or having a great job.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a sense of self-worth and letting that confidence shine through. It's about being comfortable with who you are, knowing what you want, and not settling for less.
So it's not about playing games or pretending. It's about genuine self-love and empowerment.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so attractive. When you come from a place of wholeness and self-assurance, it's magnetic.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I'm seeing dating and relationships in a whole new way.
Good.
But I'm also curious, how do we know if we're actually like embodying this feminine energy? Are there like signs to look for?
That's a great question. One of the biggest signs is that you just start to feel more at ease, more confident in yourself, no matter what your relationship status is.
Okay.
You'll notice that you're less reactive, less needy, and more comfortable being you.
So it's not just about finding a partner, it's about feeling good in our lives, period.
Exactly. And you might start to notice that you attract different kinds of people.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of attracting people who are emotionally unavailable or who need you to, like, fix them, you'll start attracting people who are more secure, more mature, who can meet you on your level.
So it's about raising our standards and attracting partners who are really in line with our values and what we want.
Yes. And who can appreciate and reciprocate your feminine energy.
This has been such a helpful conversation so far, but I feel like there's still so much more to like explore.
Right.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear some practical tips for, actually cultivating this feminine energy in our everyday lives.
All right, so we've talked about a lot in this deep dive, what feminine energy is, why it's so powerful, and how it can totally, like, transform how we date.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready for, like, the how-to part. How do we actually cultivate this energy in our like day-to-day lives?
Right.
Like what are some practical things we can start doing today?
Well, it's one thing to, like, get the ideas, but actually putting them into practice, that's where the real change happens.
Yeah.
And the good news is there are a ton of simple but really powerful things you can add to your routine.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Give me the goods. What are like some of your favorite tips?
Well, actually, the source emphasizes something we already talked about a bit,
Hmm.
mindfulness.
It might sound basic, but taking just a few minutes each day to like slow down, connect with your breath, and really tune into your body can make a huge difference.
Okay, so we're talking like meditation,
Yeah.
yoga. I'm picturing like incense and
Mhm.
chanting bowls.
Those can be great, yeah. But mindfulness doesn't have to be, complicated. It could be as simple as just sitting quietly for 5 minutes before you start your day, or noticing how your feet feel on the ground when you walk, or really like savoring each bite when you eat.
Right. It's about bringing more awareness to like the present moment instead
Yes,
of just rushing through life.
exactly. And that awareness is so important for connecting with your feminine energy. It helps you tune into your intuition, your emotions, and what your body is telling you.
It's like we're finally slowing down enough to actually hear what our inner voice is saying.
Right. Instead of all the noise from the outside.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of tuning into our bodies, remember that fifth secret, leaning into sensuality. That's another big one for cultivating feminine energy, right?
It is.
Yeah, I'm still really intrigued by that whole concept.
Mm-hmm.
The source talked about things like wearing soft fabrics, dancing, and enjoying good food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are some other ways that we can, like, tap into our sensual side?
Think about activities that like bring you pleasure and help you connect to your senses. It could be anything, really. Taking a long bath with essential oils, spending time in nature, listening to your favorite music.
Oh, I love that. Just making time for those little things that, like, make us feel good.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything, fancy or time consuming. Even just 5 minutes of doing something you enjoy can really change your energy for the whole day.
I like that a lot. So mindfulness and sensuality, those are two big ones. Any other practical tips for cultivating feminine energy?
One that I think people often forget about is the practice of receiving.
Okay.
It sounds simple, but for a lot of us, especially those of us who are used to like giving or doing for others, it can be surprisingly hard.
All right. The source talked about gracefully accepting compliments and gestures. But how do we actually get better at receiving in everyday life?
You can start by noticing all the ways that people are already giving to you.
Mm.
Maybe it's a friend offering to help, a coworker saying something nice about your work, or even a stranger holding the door open. Instead of like rushing it off or downplaying it, really take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate it.
So it's about being more aware of the, like, abundance that's already in our lives and letting ourselves receive it.
Yes, exactly. And the cool thing is, the more you practice receiving, the more open you become to even more good things coming your way.
Hmm.
It's like sending a signal to the universe that you're ready for it.
I like that. It's like we're shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Yes, exactly. And that shift can be incredibly powerful, not just in dating, but in like everything.
This is also helpful. But I got to ask, what about those times when we're, like, totally stuck in our masculine energy?
uh,
Those days when we're stressed, overwhelmed, feeling like we need to control everything.
right.
How do we get back to that, like, flow state?
Yeah, those moments are going to happen.
Right.
We all have them. But the important thing is to recognize when you're coming from that place of like force and tension,
Okay.
and then make a choice to shift gears.
So what are some, like, quick and easy ways to do that?
One of the simplest but most effective things is to just focus on your breath.
Okay.
Take a few deep breaths, really feel the air coming in and out. It might sound too simple, but it can really help to calm you down and bring you back to center.
Deep breathing is definitely my go-to when I'm feeling stressed. It's like a reset button.
Another thing you can do is move your body. Whether it's dancing, stretching, yoga, or going for a walk, movement helps to release that pent-up energy and get you back in touch with your physical self, which is a big part of feminine energy.
I like that. It's about getting out of our heads and back into our bodies.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about being perfect or never feeling stressed or overwhelmed. It's about having tools that help you come back to yourself and reconnect with that feminine energy no matter what's going on.
This deep dive has been amazing. We've learned about feminine energy, the 5 secrets to unlocking it, and how to actually make it a part of our lives. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of dating and relationships.
Me too. It's been great diving deep with you. And remember, this is just the start.
Right.
The more you practice these things, the more you'll see how powerful they can be in your love life, your relationships, and just your overall well-being.
So if you had to pick just one of these practices to focus on right now, which one feels the most, like, powerful to you? And what's one small change you could make to, like, really bring that energy into your life?
Yeah, think about that.
We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us on social media. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep shining your light.